Welcome to Haunted Talk, Paranormal Podcast. I am so excited to be doing this. I'm April, and I'm here with my beautiful daughter and co-host. I am lucky enough to be a mom to 4 amazing and very different grown children. One of my favorite parts about being their mother is how different they are and how they see the world through such different eyes. We are definitely not a one-note family. You know how they say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Well, you haven't met my apples. Plus, just as my apples keep growing and changing, so do I. We walk our own paths. We have our own beliefs, but we come together and have the most amazing conversations, respecting each other's differences and learning a thing or two. One of my favorite subjects to talk about with the entire family are paranormal stories. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Although it is our plan to bring my son-in-law, daughter-in-laws on, we are going to start with just Sis and I. Sis, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, gals, and non-binary pals. I am lovingly known as Sis or Sister. I am the resident psychic medium in the family. What does that mean exactly? It means that I see dead people. My specialties include clairaudience and clairvoyance, which is just a fancy way of saying I can see and hear spirit. I have a husband and 2 beautiful children. Today we are going to be discussing the Prairieville House. To this day, this is the most haunted house I have ever lived in. Mom, why don't you begin by telling us what it was like your very first time stepping onto the property?
So I'd like to start with my marriage at the time was in turmoil. And we had decided to relocate, and we were searching for new property. So we had come to the Prairieville House. It was in February, 18 years ago, and there was snow on the ground. And normally there is not snow on the ground in this area. It's a rare thing to get snow on the ground. So we drive out to the house and pull under the carport. And I step out onto the concrete and then step to the back of the concrete pad where it overlooks the back pasture, which slopes down into a large pond. And a wind comes up from the bottom part of the pasture. It's very cold outside, but when this wind hit me and wrapped itself around me, it was very warm and comforting, and I knew this is where I needed to be. Now, as I said before, this was February. We had so much difficulty buying the house, like something was trying to stop us, yet we kept pushing forward, and we did not close on the house until July 3rd.
Who or what do you think drew you to that house?
Well, as I said, we were having marriage difficulties, and I was praying and praying and praying. You know, there was, because of the difficulties, I was praying that the marriage stayed together, my family stayed together, and, you know, whatever I needed to do, wherever I needed to go, please bring me there. And so I am not exactly sure what drew me out there, but I knew the moment that I stepped there that if we got that house and that property, that my marriage would be saved. For now. Dun, dun, dun.
Did you notice paranormal happenings immediately? About how long did you take before you started to notice?
Well, no, not immediately. And not in the sense of like your normal haunting things. I would feel like when I would go out to the barnyard in the morning to feed the chickens or brush the horse, I would feel like this area, which was back by my closet, like I was not alone in that area outside. And also down by the big pond, because the property had 2 ponds, one small stock pond and one large stock pond. And so back by the large stock pond, if if you're looking at it from the back of the house, it would be on the right hand side. I felt always that there was something, or not something, more than one spirit there. Like there was, I always got a sense of a group of three being there. And, but they just kind of stayed down in that area. It was something different that I felt up by the corner of the house that also encompassed my bedroom.
Can you describe the first spirit you heard or saw in the house?
The first one that I seen with my own eyes, would have been, I was sitting in the living room in a spot that looked down through the foyer and then down the hallways where the bedrooms were. And it was kind of a long hallway that kind of, you had one bedroom on one side, another on the other, and then my bedroom at the end of the hall. And I seen a dark shape, like a shadow, come out of my bedroom and go into my youngest son's bedroom, and then come out and then go across the hall into another bedroom, and then come out and then go into the laundry room. I was not scared when I seen this. I was strangely comforted, almost like the spirit was checking on the children as, they slept in their beds.
What do you think made that house such a hotbed for activity?
I think it would have to do with this. The spirit I seen in my mind, but I knew she was there. In my bathroom, I seen her. I was taking a shower, setting up the scene. I was taking a shower and washing my hair, and suddenly, like a flash in my mind, I seen a woman standing outside the the shower curtain, and when I seen her, she's like drenched. And she's not happy. I feel like she had something to do with it, but I'm not sure. I think that what my children would later pick up, well, what they always picked up on, because they were terrified of my closet. I feel like it's a great possibility that in that area, and my kids called it the closet, but I don't think it was just the closet. I think it was the whole area that whole back corner of the house onto the back deck, had that same feeling where I felt very comforted by what I felt over there, except for the woman that I seen in the shower. My children never felt at ease there, and it's possible that there was a portal right there. So there's a lot of stories. Sis, why don't you tell me what you felt or saw at the house?
So, I didn't see the closet, I call her the closet girl, immediately. But I always, and I mean always, felt her. She was nasty, to put it lightly. I have seen spirits to this day. I have seen demons. I have seen angels. And she is still one of the ones that made me feel the most uncomfortable. Because think of if somebody is just sitting there glaring at you, and you can feel their eyes like daggers staring into your soul, except you can't see them. You can just feel them. That's what she was like to me. Now, it wasn't like that all the time. I don't know what would like upset her, but there was times when I just felt watched. I didn't necessarily feel like I needed to get out, but most of the time it was you need to get out right now. Like it was that sort of dreadful dagger feeling. But the first spirits I saw were what I would call shadow people, because they have the form of a human, but they're not really, at least to me, intelligent, and they don't like they don't really give off energy, at least that much. I would just be sitting on the couch and I would see them moving from the corner of my eye. But I call him the Hat Man. Almost every single night, late at night, he would, like my mom said, go from room to room, almost like a psychic imprint. But he never made me feel uncomfortable. He had a male energy. There were so many spirits in that house.
Did you see spirits before we ever moved to Prairieville?
Not that I can recall. I believe my first time actually seeing them was in that house.
Did you ever feel anything when you were out by the large stock pond?
Yes. So that whole property had a very strange feeling to it. It was almost like it was mine, but I was never alone. The only time I necessarily felt threatened was by the bathroom ghost. But I never felt alone in that house or on that property for that matter.
I didn't either. But I never felt threatened except for that one time. Well, except for that one time in the shower. Did I ever feel like threatened where the four of you guys always felt an uneasiness about that area by my closet and there in the back corner of the house, where I always felt comforted by that, what is your thought about that?
So I saw her eventually myself too, like you did. I got the psychic flash. She wanted to make herself known, because as an adult, and now that I've developed my gifts more, I don't think she was human. I think she likes to make herself look like a human. I'm not exactly sure what she is, but she is not pleasant. And I too saw her drenched, while I was in the shower. I got the same psychic imprint. She had long, dark hair. She had very, like, pointy features. Like, her chin was very pointy. Her eyes were slanted in a way that I have not seen.
They were wide set also. They
Yes.
yeah.
They didn't look human. They didn't look like it belonged on a human face. They looked almost alien-like. That's a weird way to put it.
I think that's a whole nother podcast.
But just the way that they were, because I don't think she's an alien, to be clear, but they are very wide set. Her clothes were wet. It looked like she had been thrown in one of the ponds, honestly.
Yes, that's what I thought, or caught out in the rain. But
Yeah.
when I seen her, it was a hot summer day, and this area of the world, when God turns off the tap, He doesn't turn it back on for a few months.
Yes. She was angry, like she was seething. Whereas you kind of saw her side profile, I saw her like straight on, and she was glaring at me, kind of like I felt she was glaring at me all those years.
Yeah.
She was definitely glaring at me, and it was a very like get out now.
Yeah, that's the same feeling I had.
Type
that
of
one
energy.
Time I seen her.
She was like, her chin was kind of pointed down to her chest, and like her eyes were like looking up at me, and it was like, it was a rage almost.
You know, that is a posture when you lower that head. I mean, it can be a shameful posture, but it's also a very guarded posture, like predatorial.
And
when you see a predator hunting something, their head is usually down.
and didn't she turn the faucets on?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. Yes, I have a friend who happened to come over, and we had been out on the back patio, and she came in and she went into my bathroom. Now, my bathroom, you would have to pass a double vanity sink to get to the toilet. So she passes both sinks and she goes to the toilet, and then she does her business, and then she looks over and the sink is on. The water is already running for her to wash her hands. How pleasant. She said, I am never using your bathroom again. But one of the questions I have is, why do you think that I always felt so comforted there, where especially in that area of the house where the four of you and even my now ex-husband felt very uneased?
So I don't think she was the only one in that area. I think there was another protective being that was trying to shield you. I don't know if it was an angel or what exactly it was, because I haven't been in that house since I've developed my gifts more. But I don't think that she was alone. I think she was kind of put in a cage, almost.
Like binded?
Yes. I think that she was prevented from doing harm or affecting us. And I think that is why we felt threatened, but nothing ever actually happened.
Right.
So I think maybe we'll talk about this on another day, but your beliefs maybe align up to what she is.
Okay.
Because that is the only explanation I can think of, because I do think she is more of like I don't know if she's Native American, I don't know if she's elemental, but she's not human, and she's not nice.
I don't get the sense of being an elemental, although I guess she could be, but I don't get that sense. I get the sense of a very dark force, and I only seen her the one time, and I felt something else there the majority of the time.
So I've seen her as an adult as well. I don't know what it is about that property, that house, but there is some sort of tie to me and you. And my oldest daughter saw somebody yelling at me.
Yes.
I was in the kitchen, and I see my daughter plug her ears and just, start having a meltdown.
Right.
So I
now,
asked
how
her.
old was Zoe at this time? Was she 3?
2.5, 3 years old. And because my gifts, even though I can see and hear all the time, I block it out. I've got kids. I've got a husband. I've got a life to live. I can't.
Yes, you have to have your shields up. You can't walk around with your shields down.
Yeah. So I had to tap in to see, what is wrong, because she wouldn't go into her room. And I tap in, and again, this thing has very distinct features. If you saw it once, you would never forget it. You would recognize it immediately. And so it had a different form. This form was not the human form that I saw in the shower.
So you're saying it's like recognizing a soul, because they say that we can recognize each other. If you believe in reincarnation, they say a soul recognizes another soul. Are you saying it's kind of like that?
Yes, and it, like, you know how as a child we have like distinct features, and they, even though we might, grow up, thin out, gain weight, whatever, they change, but they stay the same.
Yes. Yes.
This is what happened. It had the same pointy chin, had the same narrow slanted eyes, except this time she was not wet. Her hair looked wet, but it was not. She didn't look like she'd been thrown into a lake this time.
Right. Maybe she had toweled off.
Her eyes were nothing but black. She had horns of a ram, and this time she didn't feel like a she. It felt like more like a male energy, but it was the same threat that I felt all those years in the bathroom.
Right.
And she was yelling at me to listen to her, and because I wouldn't listen to her, she was getting the attention of my daughter, which enraged me.
Right.
I must have said 500 Bible verses, shouted them. I played Jesus music as loud as I possibly could. I turned on every light in the house. No darkness was being allowed in that house, because it's one thing if you threaten me, I will not allow you to threaten my kids.
Oh,
and I booted her butt out into oblivion. But yeah, she was shouting at me to listen, that I needed to listen. And I was like, I'm not listening to you.
Right.
You're getting out. So I wish that was where that ended.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Okay, so just because I can get them out of my house doesn't mean that they can't follow me elsewhere or come kind of close.
Right.
So the way my house is set up, I have a very large yard with lots of trees. And then, so my property probably ends at the sidewalk, which is relatively close, but past that is more grass and more trees. And so as I'm looking out my window, I see so the way my gifts work, I don't always see things like I would see you. I see them in my mind, in my mind's eye.
Right.
And in my mind's eye, I saw this thing, the same being, whatever you want to call it, by the tree. And she made a noose-like motion, like putting the noose on and like putting it on a tree. Because what people don't understand about these negative beings is they want you to die. That, I don't know how else to put it. They want you to be depressed. They want you to be miserable. They want you...
I don't know if it's actually death that they want, but it's that dark energy that they feed off of. And this is only my opinion, but I believe that they feed off of that. The depression that they cause, the misery that cause, arguments they cause. If you're, for some unknown reason, suddenly in an argument with someone you love and care about so much, and it makes no sense why this argument is happening, there may be something else affecting you, but they feed off of that energy, that chaos that comes from an atmosphere like that. That's also why it's good to keep your house clean. This is not just mom saying, pick up your toys, because a chaotic environment can also breed negative dark energy.
I agree. And so my belief system is more along the lines of a Christian belief system. So I believe that the ultimate FU, I guess, to God is to destroy something in his image, which is us. And so that's why I believe that they cause suicides and depression and all those negative feelings that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm. And see, where I'm coming from with my belief system is I did grow up Baptist, and when I was 14, I heard someone ask me, and I believe that this was a goddess, asked me, look, what do you see? And of course, I ignored this voice for many, many years. And it wasn't until we lived in the Prairieville House that I finally gave an answer. From the moment I gave the answer, my belief system started to change to more spiritual, more hocus pocus, if you dare to say that. And so coming from this point of view gives me a different view from my daughter, but I definitely understand the point of view that she's coming from. But I see it as dark energy and dark spirits and how they manipulate the world. And she sees it as something else.
I don't think I necessarily see it as something else, because I think I do think they are dark spirits. I do think they manipulate the world.
But maybe you call them demons, where I call them spirits or energies.
I don't use the D word lightly. I need people to understand that, because there are very different beings in this world. Like a human has never been a demon. There's nasty human spirits, but they're not demons. I do not use that word lightly. It is very particular what makes something a demon. So I've seen demons, I've seen angels, I've seen everything under the sun. If I call something a demon, it's because I do believe that it is a demon.
Well, either way, I think both of us come from a point of view of, we don't think either one of us, we don't find ourselves as you're wrong and I'm right, or I'm right and or I'm wrong and you're right. I'm right and you're right. Definitely two different points of view as far as spiritually that we're looking at this, but we're looking at the same thing, just through different eyes, and we're agreeing with each other on that.
I agree.
But I don't think the Prairieville House stopped when we left. Now, the marriage fell apart, and things happened, and we had to leave the property after about 8 years. And in the time since, it has now been 10 years since we left the property. And in the time since, I have had dreams that I am back on the property, but I know I should not be there, but I am there. Sometimes I'm there with all of my children. Sometimes I'm there with just some of my kids, and I know I shouldn't be here, but there is something that has pulled me back there. There is something that won't let me leave there. I have even gone and had someone do a cutting where they kind of cut the spiritual tether between myself and the property, but that only worked for a little while. And after a time period, then the dreams continued that I was there again. And the dreams are very anxiety ridden. I know I shouldn't be there. I'm trying to leave. It's like, it's trying to leave, but one thing keeps taking your attention away, and it's like, why am I here? I'm not supposed to be here. And these are the things that keep going through my head in the dream, is I'm not supposed to be here. I need to leave, and I need to leave now. And yet I'm still there.
I agree. I have as recently as this week, I've had dreams about that house. And mine aren't necessarily anxiety ridden, even though they're not necessarily good either. A lot of them are very, like, protective, like somebody's coming to take it from me and I need to protect it at all costs. And I think it is worth mentioning that in 10 years, that house is still abandoned.
Yes.
It is owned by somebody else, but they don't live there. Nobody lives there.
The house was foreclosed, just so we get that clear. You know, the timing of the world. I had been a stay-at-home mom, and try to find a job after you've been staying at home for 13 years with your kids. Nobody really wants to hire you.
And I have driven by that house, and I have stopped at the gate, not trespassing, but I just stopped at the gate, and it didn't feel right anymore. I didn't, it didn't feel like my home anymore. If you ask me what my childhood home was, I would tell you that it was probably that house. But it didn't feel like that anymore. It didn't feel like home.
Well, it's also very overgrown, where I kept the pastures very mowed. I might have been a stay-at-home mom, but I was working all the time.
I don't think it had to do with the overgrownness, but the energy was different. I didn't feel welcomed, whereas in every other part of that house besides that bathroom closet area, I felt welcome. I didn't feel alone, but I felt welcome. I didn't feel welcome anymore.
Right. When I drive down the road, which I rarely do, I think in the last 10 years, I might have driven down that road 4 times, because I still live in the same area where my daughter lives, about 1,000 miles away. But it does feel like I'm driving home until I start to get close, and then it kind of doesn't. But when I think about that property, if I think about it like a warm spring day, when the flowers are coming in, you got buds on the trees, everything is starting to turn green again and beautiful. It's one of the prettiest times of the year. That's how I think about that house and that property. It's a beautiful spring day until I close my eyes and go to sleep, and then it's very stressful.
So, Mom, you mentioned earlier about an experience by the pond. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it always seemed like there was 3 men down there. One was definitely indigenous. And the other 2 seemed more like soldiers. I don't know, a Confederate or Union. I don't know. But definitely during that period, they always seemed kind of curious about what was going on, but never just like, hey, look at those people up there on the top of the hill. They just never seemed like they took a great interest, just that letting me know that they were there. They almost like they were camping out. If you could camp out someplace for 8 years, it was almost just like they were like camping out and resting down there.
So one night in the summer, we went down by that big pond. And we were doing an EVP session down there.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I remember.
And as I had the EVP recorder in my hand. I was standing in front of the pond, and I had my eyes closed. Now, this was before I knew I was a medium. So these things did not happen to me regularly. Now, if it happened to me, I'd be like, oh, okay. But I was probably 13, 14 years old. And it's in the middle of the night. It's out in the country. Can't see nothing. And all of a sudden, as I have my eyes closed, it's like a car pulled up in front of me and turned their headlights on. And not the dim ones either. The very big LED blind
How
you.
rude.
And I felt like a pushback almost like something was blocking something from getting me. So if that happened to me today, I would say Holy Spirit is protecting me from something, acting as a barrier to prevent an entity being from coming at me, basically. So
Right.
I've always found that interesting, and I forgot about that until now.
Well, there was one, it was either autumn or spring, because there was a slight chill in the house. There was no children at home, so you guys had to be at school. And I happened to lay down, it was in the afternoon, I happened to lay down for a nap on the couch in the living room. I am just laying there, and I hear the back door open, the back door that led to the carport. And I hear that back door open, and I'm trying to wake up, but I can't wake up. And I'm like trying to force myself, wake up. And I get a sense that there is a man in the house, and he has now moved into the living room. He's come through the sunroom where that door is, into the living room where I am. And he is just standing there watching me, and I am trying to wake up. And then when I did wake up, of course, and open my eyes, it's like one of those where you have to kind of like peel your eyes open. Of course, there was nothing there. I always found that to be very interesting.
That is interesting. Now, did you recognize it? Like, if you had to identify like one of the resident spirits in the house, did it seem?
And like I had never seen him before or after. You know, it is just someone new. There is actually a talk show host, and I can't think of his name right now, that he actually looked like. But no, I never had any other interactions with him. But you know what else happened? See, I'm big with dream interpretations, and I've always done this for years and years. This was after the divorce, but still, we were still in the house, and I happened to be off work that day. I lay down, and I had just started dating someone. Actually, we had been dating for a few months by this time, and I dreamt that I was in the back pasture, and I'm on the left side of the large pond. It's such a landmark. The left side of the large pond, looking up toward the house, and I see a buzzard or vulture, whatever word you want to use for it, inverted and skinned, just suspended there in the middle of the pasture. And it is like winter time in the pasture, so all of the grass is brown. There's no sign of spring has come in the stream. And I wake up, and I knew that it was a bad omen to see this. And I am definitely awake now. I walk out of my bedroom, down the hall to the foyer. I open up the front door, and I step out onto the front porch, where I see out in the front pasture, I see 9 vultures around something just there in the front pasture. It was 9 months later that the man that I had just started dating a few months before was violently killed. And it would have been not too long after that we ended up having the house foreclosed. So that was always very odd in the timing of all that to me.
Now, as a family, we all have very vivid dreams. It wasn't until I had some conversations with some friends that I realized that not everybody dreams in color and so vividly like we do. Our dreams can often seem very real.
Our dreams, I've always found meaning in dreams, and there are many cultures that have found meaning in dreams. And even before my spiritual or religious beliefs changed, you guys were basically raised on mom interpreting dreams. So if you go back in our heritage, our family comes from the Virginia, West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, and then of course the Ohio Valley when you get later on into it. So we do have some mountain people back in our lineage, and I'm sure that there was some people interpreting dreams before religion took a really strong hold in our family, and that part was weeded out.
Yeah, and of course, I'm a medium, so that probably runs in the family too somewhere. They probably just didn't talk about it.
Yes. On one particular side of our family, they became like extremely religious, not like, how do you say, not to the point of like extremism, but to where you prayed every day for hours. If the church doors were open, you were there. You did this as a family. You worried about the salvation of each other's souls, and you made sure that you walked that line.
It's also important to mention that your grandfather, my great-grandfather, was a preacher.
Yes, and I love him so much. Oh my gosh, so much that I named my firstborn after him. He was as religious as that seemed. There was so much love, and I had to say that there was so much love coming from them. And still now, I know some people, when religion takes a hold, there is so much brutality that comes with it, but that's never what I felt. I've only felt love. And it was very hard to step away from what I was taught to take on new beliefs, because I do believe my new path to be my true path.
And on that note, I think this wraps it up for the Prairieville House. We will have my siblings, your other children, on to discuss more happenings, as I'm sure they have more stories.
Yes, they do have some interesting stories as well.
Thank you for joining us. This has been Haunted Talks Paranormal Podcast. We hope you join us again. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.